The most profitable business in the world is speculation, provided you know what you are doing, and the most ruinous pursuit is speculation, provided you don't. That is the truth. And most men never learn it, because most men come to the market seeking quick riches, not discipline, not patience, not study, but excitement. They chase every flicker on the tape as though a fortune must lie behind it, but fortunes are never caught in that manner. Fortunes are caught by catching the big moves, and catching them before they are plainly visible to the crowd. Do you understand that? Do you know how few men ever sit quietly, waiting, stalking the market like a hunter who has studied his game? The reason most speculators lose is because they try to catch every little swing, every minor jiggle of price, instead of waiting for the moment when the real movement begins. They act like gamblers, throwing chips on every spin of the wheel, and then wonder why they walk away broke. But the market does not pay you for gambling. The market pays you for patience, foresight, and the courage to act when the line of least resistance is clear. Tell me, do you think you can make a fortune by darting in and out for a point here, a half point there, perhaps once or twice, but not over time? Over time it is the big swing that pays. The big swing and nothing else. I learned this lesson the hard way, as every man must. There were days in my youth when I was content to take a quick profit. I'd snatch a point and feel proud, only to see the stock march on 10 points without me. Do you know that feeling? Of course you do. Every man who speculates knows it, and every man who speculates must sooner or later face the truth. You cannot build wealth by cutting off your profits. You must ride them, you must nurse them, and you must let them grow while the crowd is still in disbelief. A big move never starts with fanfare. It starts quietly, when the market tips its hand, when the signs line up for those willing to watch and wait. The public never sees it in time. They come in when the story is on the front page, when the clerks are chattering about it on the curb, when the move is already half spent. But the professional must learn to recognize the signal before the newspapers, before the crowd, before the noise. That is where the money is. The trick is not guessing. No man can guess right consistently. The trick is observing, waiting, and acting only when the tape tells you the move is about to unfold. Have you ever waited for weeks, sitting idle, while the market did nothing worth your stake? That is the true test of a speculator. Most men cannot bear the waiting, so they fritter away their money in idle trades, and when the great moment arrives they have neither capital nor courage left to act. A market move always begins in the same way. The stock becomes heavy on rallies or stubborn on declines. The action is subtle, but if you have trained your eyes on the tape, you see it. It is not about tips. It is not about stories. It is about the price and its behavior. The price is never wrong. The crowd may chatter, the newspapers may deceive, but the price never lies. Do you look at it with that seriousness? Or do you let your mind be clouded by what others are saying? Remember, the price is the only reality in speculation. All else is noise. There comes a moment when the stock begins to move along its natural course. The line of least resistance presents itself, and that is when the speculator must act with courage. No hesitation, no half measures, no timid probing. If you have read it right, you must plunge. That is how fortunes are made, not by a dozen little scalps, but by catching the one great move before it starts and riding it until it is exhausted. Men ask me, how did you make your millions? And I tell them, it was never my brains. It was never my tips. It was my ability to sit tight, to wait for the big opportunity, and to hold on once I had it. Can you do that? Can you sit tight when you are right, and resist the urge to cash in too soon? The trouble is that human nature works against us in speculation. When we are in profit, we grow nervous. We fear the market will snatch it away, so we sell out too soon. And when we are in loss, we grow hopeful. We cling to the stock, praying it will turn, refusing to admit our mistake. This is exactly backward. We ought to cut losses short and let profits run long. But tell me, how many men truly do it? Precious few. That is why the market is filled with losers, and why those who can do the opposite make fortunes. To catch a big move before it starts, one must be a student of the market, not a follower of the crowd. Study the action, study the volume, study the character of the advance or the decline. Ask yourself, who is buying here? Who is selling here? And why? The crowd never asks these questions. They act on emotion, on gossip, on the impulse of the moment. But the professional asks always, what is the market saying? Not what do I wish it would say, not what is my broker whispering, but what is the action itself revealing? And then he waits. He waits until the picture is unmistakable. Can you do that? Can you watch a stock day after day, resisting every small temptation until the hour arrives? That is the price of catching the big move. You must remember that the market is never wrong, only opinions are. The market will always show you the truth, but you must be patient enough to read it. Men destroy themselves by fighting the market, by trying to impose their will upon it. They say, this stock ought to rise, and when it does not, they keep on buying, piling up losses. Or they say, this stock is surely too high, and they sell short, only to see it climb higher and higher. But the stock does not move because you think it should. It moves because it must. And when it must, the tape will tell you. Have you learned to listen? Once you have caught a big move, the test of character begins. The market will try to shake you out. It will feint, it will retrace, it will tempt you to abandon your position. The crowd will scream that the top is in or that the bottom is made. And all the while, the stock continues along its path. The man who sits tight, who resists the chatter and the feints, who holds on until the move is truly spent, that man takes the profits. The others give theirs back. Tell me, are you strong enough to resist the market's tricks? Do you have the nerve to endure the fluctuations, or will you hand your winnings back at the first sign of trouble? I have always said, it never was my thinking that made the big money for me. It was my sitting tight. And this is the hardest thing for most men to learn. They believe speculation means action, constant buying and selling, a whirlwind of excitement. But speculation is mostly sitting and waiting, and then acting decisively at the right moment. To catch the big move before it starts, you must first have the strength to do nothing until the signal is clear. The truth is, there is nothing new in Wall Street. What has happened before will happen again, and again and again. The game does not change, only the players do, and the reason is simply human nature does not change. The greed, the fear, the hope, the impatience. It is the same today as it was 100 years ago. That is why the same patterns repeat themselves, and why the man who studies the past can foresee the future. Have you studied enough? Or do you think each day brings something new? If you think so, you are fooling yourself. The market will always test you. It will offer false starts, traps, and mirages. But when the true move begins, it will be unmistakable to the trained eye. The stock will move easily, with little resistance, and it will keep on moving despite the crowd's disbelief. That is when you must have the courage to act boldly. The timid man, the man who nibbles, will make little. The man who plunges with conviction, once the signal is clear, is the man who wins. And once in, he must hold and hold and hold until the market tells him it is time to get out. So, when I speak of catching big moves before they start, I do not mean guessing tops or bottoms. No man alive can do that consistently. I mean recognizing the line of least resistance, the true direction of the market, and aligning yourself with it at the moment when it is still fresh. When the public is still blind, when the profit potential is greatest. That is the essence of speculation. That is the art of it, the science of it, the whole of it. Do you see the difference? Do you see why it is not about predicting, but about observing? Tips and stories mislead. Only price and action reveal the truth. There is no greater trap in speculation than listening to the chatter of others. A tip is nothing but another man's opinion. And if opinions made fortunes, every broker's office boy would be a millionaire. Yet men will sell their reason and judgment for the comfort of hearing someone else tell them what to do. Why is that? Because speculation is hard, because discipline is harder, and because the human mind always seeks a shortcut to riches. But there are no shortcuts. There is only the market, and the market speaks only in one language: price and action. Do you think you can afford to ignore that and still win? I have watched men ruin themselves on tips, and I have done so myself when I was young and foolish. The tip always comes dressed as certainty. It always sounds convincing. It promises easy money, no effort required, just faith in the whisper. But the market does not reward faith. The market punishes it. You must understand this. A tip is like a mirage in the desert. It looks like salvation to the thirsty, but when you reach it, there is nothing there. Have you ever followed a tip that turned into a disaster? Of course you have. Every man who trades has. And yet, strangely, they will take the next tip, and the next, as though the last one was only bad luck. That is not speculation. That is self-destruction. The stories are just as dangerous. Wall Street is a machine for creating stories. There is always a reason, always an explanation, always some narrative designed to explain away the action of the market. But stories are created after the fact, to soothe the minds of the crowd, to make sense of movements that need no explanation. Price is the only fact. Action is the only truth. If the stock is going up, that is all you need to know. The story may be bullish or bearish. It does not matter. The stock itself is telling you the truth. If only you will listen. Do you? Or do you still cling to the comfort of hearing why? I remember times when the whole market was gripped by a story. Some rumor, some glowing account of a company's future, and every broker's office would be buzzing with it. Men would rush in, buying on the tail, certain that they were ahead of the world. But the tape told another story. Heaviness on rallies, weakness in the buying. And sure enough, the stock would soon break, and those same men who bought on the glowing tail would be scrambling to get out, cursing their luck. But it was not luck. It was blindness. They listened to the words and ignored the price. Can you see the danger in that? The tip or the story blinds you to your own judgment. It takes away your independence, your discipline, and makes you a follower. But the follower never wins in speculation. The follower always comes in late, always takes the leftovers, always pays for the other man's profit. The only way to be consistently profitable is to rely on the one thing that cannot lie, the action of the market itself. The tipster may be honest or crooked, the story may be bright or false, but the price is never wrong. It is always the final verdict. Why then would you exchange that verdict for gossip? Do you know why men chase tips? Because they cannot stand uncertainty. They crave assurance. They want to believe someone knows. But in speculation, no one knows. Not the broker, not the newspaper, not even the insiders all the time. The only thing that shows the truth is the market itself. That is why studying the tape, the action, the behavior of prices is the only real work of the speculator. Everything else is distraction. And yet, walk into any brokerage office and what do you hear? Not quiet concentration on the tape, but chatter, rumors, tips, and stories. That is why most men lose. When a stock is ready to move, it shows it. There is no need for a story to explain it. The volume will come in, the resistance will break, the action will reveal the path of least resistance. The story may follow, but that is for the crowd, not for the professional. The professional is already in, because he trusted the action, not the tale. Have you noticed how often the big moves start quietly, without news, without fanfare, only to be explained weeks later when the story is published? By then the move is half over, and the public is just coming in. That is the difference between following stories and following action. Which side would you rather be on? You must train yourself to distrust everything but the tape. Do not believe what is whispered to you in the corridors. Do not believe what is printed in the papers. Believe only what you see in the price. The price cannot be hidden. If insiders are buying, it will show in the action. If they are selling, it will show too. The market has a way of revealing the truth in advance, if only you are willing to see it. Have you developed that willingness, or are you still searching for the easy road of listening to others? Every great mistake I ever made came from trusting something other than the market itself. Every great success I ever had came from listening only to the tape. That is not a coincidence.